Well, let me tell you something, brother.
Snort, snort, snort,
Hogan. Drip.
snort, snort.
I got the drip. Go. Am I planning to do an interview with Mutahar? When you say Mutahar, isn't that guy? SomeOrdinaryGamers, I think is his name on YouTube.
Why is it despite working in the online entertainment industry, DSP has no idea who anybody ever is? I should rephrase that. He doesn't know who anybody is until he's gonna relentlessly take shots at them. And then automatically he knows every single thing about them and who they truly are behind the scenes.
So if you want, would you like to hear the story? Because basically this happened, I guess there was a little bit of interaction with me and him on Twitter a couple months ago, and literally no one has asked me about this since then.
I love when he starts an answer with, do you really want to know this story? Like, if they didn't, they wouldn't have asked the question to begin with. Also, I'm always down for a good grandpa story time. I love stories that meander and are filled with gross exaggerations that make them really difficult to believe. And there's never any proof to these grandpa story times, so we just have to take him at his word, which we know isn't worth anything at all.
So basically, I guess the guy doesn't like me. And he's done many stories about me over the years, how he hates me, how he thinks that I'm a bad person, a bad gamer. I very much unfairly, I make YouTubers look bad.
I feel like most people don't like you, and the statements that you're a bad gamer and that you make other YouTubers look bad is entirely accurate.
I have no idea how he ever came to that conclusion, but apparently he doesn't like me, okay?
I mean, he probably came to that conclusion the same way that everybody else has come to that conclusion. They heard about you, they checked out your content, they saw the things that surround you, and they made up their mind that you're no good. That's how most normal people come to conclusions. You hear about something, you check it out, and then you decide whether or not it's for you, and most people have decided that you're just not for them.
So, a few months ago, for whatever reason, I can't even remember what it was, like someone had said that they wanted to interview me again. Now, I had an interview earlier this year. You know how it went. I told you guys I'm not interested in any further interviews. I don't give two shits about what anyone has to say. I just want to make my content and be left alone. Correct?
Despite your initial reaction after the interview and saying that it went totally fine and exactly what you wanted, you immediately 180'd and flipped out because you realized how bad you looked. So you completely flipped the script and went on relentlessly about how Adam and Craig are just detractors. How they didn't interview anybody who was a fan of yours, despite none of your fans coming out of the woodwork to actually want to talk positively about you. And since then, you've shut down any sort of idea to collaborate with any other creator, even though people in your community have told you several times that that's what they want to see. Now, I don't know if these people have your best interest at heart. I always say your chat is full of LARPers. You definitely can't trust those people, but you trust them enough to do experiments with you. So if you trust them that much, you should probably trust that when they tell you they want to see certain types of content, that that's truly what they want to see.
In fact, really the reason I'm not interested in your interview is how it affected you guys. You guys told me for like 2 months after that Side-Scrollers interview that all it was drama for you guys, and you didn't want to deal with that. You just wanted to have fun with me on stream, and you hated that it went that way. Please don't do this nonsense anymore.
And of course, you're gonna use your audience as a shield. You guys told me for 2 months afterwards that it was a bunch of drama for you and you didn't like the way it went. How would it have been drama for them? I mean, these are the people who are just supposed to watch your content and not watch any detractor content at all. So if you weren't talking about it, it wouldn't have had any effect on them whatsoever. The problem was you kept bringing it up because you can't help yourself but talk about drama and address all of the things that people were saying outside of your own content. But why is 2-month-old input from your audience relevant, but 4-month-old data from Digital Foundry that illustrates the different performances between the platforms of Street Fighter 6 isn't good anymore? I know the simple answer is because it doesn't conform to your worldview, but you should at least try and be a little more consistent.
So I've done my best this year to stay out of drama, correct?
No, not correct at all, because you tried to start an entire beef during the summer with LTG. An entirely one-sided beef too, because you did 2 separate 40-minute segments about LTG when LTG responded to you in about 10 minutes. And he didn't even go that specific into you. He pretty much just gave you the same general insults that he gives to everybody about not being attractive, and then he brought up the incident. Not exactly the most original take. So no, absolutely not. You love drama. You can't keep yourself out of drama. You constantly have to name drop other people. You just did it to XQC not that long ago.
So, basically, I guess there was discussion on like Twitter, and again, I don't know because I have all these people blocked or whatever. I'm not paying attention.
As an online entertainer, I would imagine it would be your prerogative to keep up with what people are saying and thinking about you online, because those things could be a detriment or a benefit to your business. But DSP doesn't care. He just blocks everybody on Twitter, so he doesn't actually know what people are saying, which partly explains why he's so out of touch with online culture and behind on the time.
That people wanted to interview me, and I guess this guy Mutahar was one of them. and he had said that he was going to pay me $5,000 for an interview, all right? But I had him blocked on Twitter. He's like, if people could get him to unblock me, I'd like to talk to him, all right?
And this same exact thing happened with Keemstar when he wanted to get a hold of you. You already had him blocked. You're actively missing out on money opportunities because your ego is so fragile that you couldn't stand the words that were being said to you on the internet. Or sometimes not even being said to you, just kind of generally about you in a weird sort of roundabout way. You'd think after it happened the first time with Keemstar, he would have learned something from it, but I guess not.
So I unblocked him, and he DM'd me, and all he basically said was, I want to do an interview with you. I'll pay you $5,000 for it. And I want to cover common questions and things that people have on the internet about you. He says it would not be personal, meaning when he says that, it would not be about your wife. It would not be about family members. It would essentially be about you and your streaming, your business, and how you operate your business, and all kinds of shit like that.
Sounds reasonable. Sounds like a good time. Seems like a good first contact. There shouldn't be any complaints about this so far.
Right? And really it was a very nice message. He was very respectful. And within that day, I responded right back to him. I said, first of all, and this is, I'm just paraphrasing, but first, I said, first of all, I'm not accepting any payment for any interview. I refuse. I'm not important enough of a person to accept payment for an interview. So the answer is no, I would not accept your offer of $5,000.
And there he goes again, fumbling the bag. He's willing to pay you $5,000 for what would probably be about an hour's worth of your time. But because you're so scarred from the Side Scrollers interview, you refuse the money straight out the gate. You're gonna get on stream every single day and beg to hit that tier 1 tips goal because you need to pay your bills or whatever, but when people outright offer you money for so little of your time, you just refuse it without batting an eye.
I said, if you want to pay something, you could donate it somewhere. If we did an interview, go donate $5,000 to a charity, or we could talk about a charity to donate it to, because I don't want to be a part of accepting payment for an interview. But hey, maybe if it goes to a good cause, then something good comes out of it, right?
Yeah, I'm definitely pressing X to doubt on that one. This greedy little pig would never turn down $5,000 and then offer it to go to charity. If he cared about charity so much, he would be doing some of those charity streams that all the big streamers do.
And what I responded was, it's this simple. I don't want to talk about the same drama shit that everyone already asked me about. Like, the whole point of me doing that interview with Side Scrollers in March was very simple, so that all of the answers are in one spot. If you want to see my side or my take or my answers on some of those, what I feel are really stupid personal questions that have nothing to do with my business, but if that's what you want, the answers are there. They already asked all the questions. I answered to the best of my ability, and those answers are never going to change because they're truthful.
Which is the longhand version of just saying that he doesn't want to be caught up in any of his lies. He doesn't want to be asked the same question twice because he might contradict what he said the first time. And they absolutely didn't get to ask all of the questions because they spent a large portion of the time letting you spin your lies. Also, I think it's fairly common that when people do interviews, it's totally okay to bring up what they've said in past interviews. Because sometimes the answers that you give in an interview only lead to more questions that people want answered. So when you do another interview, some of those questions should be answered.
Right? So if you ask me an interview and you ask me the same fucking questions that those guys asked me, you're going to get exactly the same answers. You have nothing different, right? So I said, so no, if the interview is going to be about that same stuff, then the answer is no, I'm not interested.
So DSP is refusing to repeat himself for $5,000 and an hour's worth of his time, but will spend about 10 minutes every single day doing the same exact beg script so that he can get the tier 1 tips goal. He really must just be the worst businessman of all time. But we all know that the reality is that he wouldn't answer the questions the same. He would get tangled in his own web of lies because he has the memory of a goldfish and can't remember anything he's ever said before. And that anybody that watches that interview that isn't already denthead is going to come away with a negative perspective of him.
However, if you want to do interviews about anything else, you want to talk about games, you want to talk about hey, my work ethic, hey, you know what, if people had issue with the amount that they think I e-beg, fine, we could talk about that. I'm down for that.
But nobody wants to talk about what games you like or your work ethic, DSP. Those aren't the things that people find interesting about you. An interview shouldn't delve into the mundanity of a person. They should delve into the things that people actually find interesting.
But the thing is, I don't want us to talk about the same bullshit that people keep bringing up over and over. The fucking mobile game shit and the fucking bankruptcy shit. The shit that's no one's business, by the way.
It might not be their business, but it's 100% more interesting given the fact that you get on stream and e-beg every day. If you didn't e-beg as much as you do, it wouldn't be of any interest. But it's simply the fact that you do come on stream and beg your dents for every single dollar to find out that you have a mobile game addiction and that's where pretty much all of that money is going.
It never should have been anyone's business. It's stuff that people forced to the forefront as a reason not to like me, despite the fact it has nothing to do with what I do on my streams at all. Nothing.
But it does have something to do with your content, because that's the reason why you beg. And your begging is what makes your content. And didn't you just go on a whole tirade the other day about how other content creators are secretly all about the money behind the scenes? What happened to that logic? Now all of a sudden, just because it's not a part of your content, we're not supposed to care about it? All you gotta do is be consistent, DSP. But all you do is speak out of both sides of your mouth and you can't keep your own story straight. It's always rules for thee and not for me.
Right? How many times have we talked about that stuff in the last many months that I've told you guys I'm done with drama? Zero. How much fun have we had on stream because we're not talking about it? Tons, right?
I don't know if you can prove that they're having tons of fun simply because you're not mentioning it. Like, I get what you're trying to say, but what you're actually saying is just stupid.
So that's why the fuck would I ever have to bring that shit up ever again? It doesn't affect any of the content we make together. So what, you know, again, it's like to entertain these morons out there who just want to keep doing ridiculous stuff, right? The interview in March served the purpose that it served, and it's good for that.
Yes, it definitely served the purpose and highlighted that you cannot tell the truth. It proved that nothing you say ever lines up, that you have an excuse for every single one of your behaviors, and that you're constantly claiming that you're changing, but you're in reality the same person. It also proved that when things don't positively benefit you, you instantly turn heel on it and denounce it as detractor propaganda, despite all of the praise that you were heaping on it as soon as it was over.
You want to see my answers to bullshit? Watch the interview. You don't have to believe my answers, but you know what my answers are. There's no point in me ever doing a second interview about the same topics. My answers will never change because it's truthful answers from me. Okay?
Man, I would love to see the studying that he would have to do of his previous interview to do another one. He'd really have to watch that 5-hour interview about 6 times and taking notes to really keep track of all of the things that he said that weren't true.
So, what I did bring up, I said, I think if you want to have a good interview, sure, let's bring up the stuff that you don't like about me, like the e-bang or whatever, but let's talk about that Side Scrollers interview. Let's talk about how those guys all became fucking snakes after the fact, and literally for the last many months have profited directly off of slandering me and everything about me. Because I think that would be something people would like to hear about.
If it was truly slander, you'd take him to court. It's that cut and dry, but you won't. Because you know the truth is they're not slandering you at all. They've just come to their own conclusion based on the evidence that you gave them. You just don't like the conclusion that they came to. And if people wanted to hear about your take on what the Side Scrollers did in the interview and after the interview, they would just come to your stream. Because you bring it up all the time. You don't need a special interview to do that. They can just go to your stream. Or they could go to a detractor channel or clip channel and just watch the clips there. That'd definitely be a waste of Mudahar's and our time.
Because it's pretty obvious that's exactly what they've done. And take a look at their behavior, not only with me, but others since then. I think that would be a great interview exposing how bad they are as people, as content creators.
I mean, the Side Scrollers definitely have been making a fool of themselves recently. I'm not finna sit here and defend them. They're not my friends. I don't know them. The only thing that they did that I care about is that DSP interview.
Right? I'm willing to talk about that or anything else you want. Just don't ask me the same questions. Okay? So that was my response to him. I have never heard from him since.
Yeah, I would imagine that the second that you started to try and dictate what questions he was and wasn't allowed to ask you, he immediately lost interest. Because that's not how a good interview works, and anyone who's willing to do an interview like that isn't going to do good content. Why detract from his own image for a bad interview?
No response whatsoever. He just, as if I never responded. Didn't even say, oh, thanks for the response. He just never responded. So the answer is, no, I'm not doing an interview with this guy, because apparently he wasn't interested in anything besides the same exact drama questions that have already been asked, expecting that my answers would change, which they were not going to, because I've already said my piece of the truth about the situation, and that's that.
So by him not responding, DSP automatically came to the conclusion that he was only interested in asking the same questions, trying to catch him in his lies. I mean, that could be true, but it also could not be true. I don't know how DSP extrapolated all of that from a simple no response. So not only is he an expert in twisting and warping words to fit his reality, but he can also do that with literally nothing. Truly a man of many talents.
So, there you go. It's that simple, right? So, if they're not going to get what they want out of it, and no, it didn't hit a spam folder because it was through DMs on Twitter. So he definitely read it. He just didn't care for my answer, and that was it. Never heard from him again. So there you go.
So there you go. But that'll do it for today's video. A shorter one, I know. But I definitely wanted to talk about this Mutahar interview thing. I would imagine the interview would have been probably pretty decent. I don't really know that much about Mutahar. I've seen some of his videos. I thought they were okay. He seems to know a little more about DSP than I think the side-scrollers did. But of course, a very big shout out to Snort Hogan for the clip. As always, I appreciate it. And obviously a big shout out to all of you guys for watching. Hopefully I catch you in the next one. But until then, make sure that you check out other detractor channels and dive deeper into that Snortex.